What could happen if the US and Russia go to war? Now there's a question that's been reverberating around the world lately. The gravity of this query is undeniable, with potential implications that could ripple across the globe. The recent tensions between these two superpowers have escalated, leading to speculation about this worst-case scenario. From economic sanctions to cyber attacks, the chessboard of international politics is set for a high-stakes game. But what does this mean on a larger scale? Let's delve into the details of this complex issue. Recent events have escalated the tension between these two superpowers. Let's delve into the latest happenings that are shaping the course of this narrative. The United States has shown its readiness to impose robust economic penalties on Russia if it invades Ukraine. These sanctions are not to be taken lightly, as they would target high-impact sectors that could severely impact Russia's economy. The implications are so significant that they could place Russia in the same restrictive group as Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. The shift in strategy reflects the recognition that previous sanctions did not alter Putin's behavior. Therefore, the United States is contemplating significant trade restrictions, including export control measures that could halt Russia's ability to import smartphones and key components. The Biden administration is also considering banning exports of microelectronics designed with U.S. software or produced using U.S. equipment. However, these measures are not without their risks. Some officials have warned of collateral economic damage and the risk of retaliatory cyber attacks, but others believe that the impact would be manageable. The United States is open to discussing missile deployments and restrictions on exercises in Ukraine and Europe, as long as Russia makes reciprocal commitments. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo has also announced that the U.S. is closely monitoring Russia's attempts to evade U.S. sanctions and will crack down on these efforts. The Kremlin, on the other hand, has increasingly relied on clandestine services to avoid Western sanctions. Despite the impact of sanctions, concerns remain about Russia's ability to evade them and continue acquiring necessary technologies and financing. The U.S. has imposed numerous sanctions on Russia since its invasion of Ukraine, impacting the Russian economy. Adeyemo emphasizes that the U.S. is slowing down Russia's rearmament while supporting Ukraine. The actions of both nations have set the stage for a potential conflict. The next steps taken by the United States and Russia will not only shape their bilateral relations but will also have far-reaching implications for the global political landscape. The consequences of a war between the U.S. and Russia would be far-reaching. In an age of globalization, no conflict is isolated, and its ripple effects are felt across the globe. A significant political fallout would be inevitable. The balance of power would shift, alliances would be tested, and the global political landscape could be altered irrevocably. This conflict wouldn't merely be a duel between two nations. It would be a clash of ideologies, a test of resilience for the democratic world order. The economic implications would be equally severe. Sanctions, trade restrictions, and the potential targeting of high-impact sectors could cripple economies, not just in the US and Russia, but globally. The world's financial system would likely bear the brunt of this economic warfare, leading to a domino effect of economic crises worldwide. Then comes the humanitarian impact, perhaps the most tragic consequence of all. The disruption of food supplies could trigger a global food crisis. Countries like Ukraine, known as the world's breadbasket, would see their food production and exports severely affected. This could potentially push millions into famine or famine-like conditions. Moreover, the use of food shortages as a weapon of war is a cruel reality that could lead to widespread suffering and loss of life. The war would also impose a substantial burden on global resources. The world would have to grapple with the displacement of people, the need for humanitarian aid, and the aftermath of destruction. The drain on resources could slow down global progress and development, widening the inequality gap. Furthermore, the potential for cyber attacks and retaliatory measures could lead to a new age of warfare, where digital fortresses are as crucial as physical ones. This could redefine the concept of national security, pushing nations to invest heavily in digital defense and cybersecurity. The stakes are undoubtedly high, and the world watches with bated breath. The potential fallout of a war between these two superpowers serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the importance of diplomatic solutions over military aggression. A conflict between the US and Russia would not be contained within their borders. The reverberations of this clash would be felt worldwide, impacting nations far and wide. Let's first consider those countries heavily reliant on imports from either the US or Russia. For instance, Ukraine, known as one of the world's breadbaskets, is already experiencing disruptions in its food production and exports due to Russia's actions. This has had a domino effect, potentially pushing up to 49 million people into famine or famine-like conditions, as reported by the United Nations. Now think about the global supplies of fuel, fertilizer, and produce. International sanctions against Russia are impacting these supplies, causing a ripple effect that influences economies across the globe. This is not just about Ukraine or Russia, but about the entire world's food security. Let's also not forget about the countries in close geographical proximity to these superpowers. They are the ones most likely to bear the brunt of any military actions. The potential for collateral damage is high, and the threat of retaliatory cyber attacks cannot be overlooked. This conflict could also have significant implications for global trade and commerce. Consider Russia's ability to import smartphones and key components. The US is contemplating severe trade restrictions, which could halt Russia's ability to import these items. If this happens, it could disrupt global supply chains, affecting industries and consumers worldwide. Furthermore, the war could lead to an increase in global food prices. Cereals, for instance, have already seen a price surge of over 21%. This could escalate further if the situation worsens. In essence, a conflict between the US and Russia would be a global crisis, affecting not just the economies but also the lives of people around the world. It would influence international relations, global trade, and even the daily lives of individuals in distant nations. The ripple effects of this conflict could touch every corner of the globe. While the scenario is grim, it's crucial to consider potential outcomes. Let's begin with diplomatic resolutions. As the United States and Russia continue their talks, there is a chance that diplomacy could prevail. Both nations have much to lose in a full-scale conflict, and history has shown us that dialogue can often prevent disaster. The talks could lead to agreements on missile deployments and restrictions on military exercises, potentially reducing tensions. However, if diplomacy fails, the world could face an economic crisis. The United States has made it clear that it is prepared to impose severe economic penalties on Russia, targeting high-impact sectors. These sanctions could put Russia in the same restrictive group as Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. This would not only significantly impact Russia's economy, but could also cause collateral economic damage worldwide. Moreover, a prolonged war scenario cannot be ruled out. If Russia continues its aggression and the United States responds, the conflict could drag on for years, causing untold human suffering and economic damage. Third-party intervention is another potential outcome. Other countries, particularly those in Europe, could step in to mediate or even join the conflict. This could either escalate the situation further, or help bring about a resolution, depending on the nature of the intervention. And let's not forget the role of international organizations. The United Nations, for example, could play a pivotal role in mediating the conflict and potentially averting a full-scale war. However, it's important to remember that these are all possibilities, not certainties. The situation is incredibly complex and fluid, with many factors at play. As the situation evolves, the world hopes for a peaceful resolution. The possibility of a war between the US and Russia raises serious concerns. Today, we've discussed the escalating tensions, fueled by issues like potential sanctions and Russia's actions in Ukraine. We've explored the catastrophic consequences of a potential war, not just for the two nations, but for the entire world. The impact on the global economy, food supply, and geopolitical stability would be profound. We've also considered possible outcomes, none of which are without significant challenges. As we ponder this question, it's clear that the world is closely watching the actions of these two superpowers.